Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Oh, it's very echoey in here today. Maybe it's because it's 6:53 in the morning and there's no other sounds. I realized that I haven't played with makeup in general or on this channel in a while, so I thought that we could do like a fun, easy summer makeup routine. I'm gonna do like my little hair trick, which you'll see as well with my newly real natural hair, and we'll just talk about some fun summer childhood memories because I love to go down memory lane, okay? I am a very sentimental person and I have a fantastic memory. Let's get into it. I'm gonna zoom you in. First off, don't mind my little Rudolph nose. Wear your sunscreen, everyone. I went outside yesterday for maybe 45 minutes and I was just chatting with the fam and stuff like that. And then I looked at myself in the mirror last night and I was like, oh no. Wear your sunscreen, even if you're only outside for a little bit, or else you're gonna end up like me. Obviously, we don't want this. It's bad for the long run. Now that I've addressed that, let's get into the makeup. Oh, gosh, my hair's just too healthy to stay. Oh, and I forgot to wet my beauty blender. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. So I'm gonna start off by using Tarte Shape Tape in Light just to cover up the sunburn that's on my nose and also this little like pimple that won't go away. And I'm gonna tell you kind of like chronologically my favorite summer memories. Whoa, that was a lot. It's a little bit excessive. So growing up, my mom really liked to do outdoorsy things with us. And I think also, as she's told me, we didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. And the things that she picked for us to do were usually free or really inexpensive, which is funny because looking back, those are my favorite memories, not memories when we were like spending a lot of money and stuff like that. We didn't have it anyway. But these are my like most favorite memories, is us spending time outdoors together. And she would take us to the beach a lot. And when we were kids, we had a cabin in Ontario, which is a province in Canada, if you're not from Canada. I think that my mom was just like a water baby when she was growing up as well, just like growing up around the lake and stuff like that. Again, this cabin had like no running water, okay? It didn't have like a flushing toilet. We had outhouses. It's not like we had some like bougie lake house, okay? It was like a family camping cabin on the lake. It's still very cool, but I just don't want you to get the wrong impression of this story. So I think that my mom just kind of like grew up as a water baby, grew up around the water. So she really liked to take us to the beach as kids. And I was talking to her the other day because it's honestly interesting how good my memory is. I'm just gonna go in with Lancome Skin Feels Good in the shade. They covered it up, but I know it's the lightest one because their shade range is like crazy small. And this is the lightest shade that they had. So I was talking to her the other day and I was telling her how much I appreciated that even when the weather got not so nice. Oh, this is a little orange for my face. Well. We'll make it work. So even when the weather got not so nice, she would still stay out and play with us. And that's one of my most favorite memories. We were at this beach called Gyro Beach in Kelowna, BC, okay? If you're from Kelowna, you know that beach was like the prolific beach. I feel like that's where everybody went. It's weird because like kids went there, like young kids, but also teenagers that were like drinking on the other side. There was like a teenager side and a kid side. Here. And then I messed up my foundation. She would take us to this beach called Gyro Beach, and I remember one day I was playing around, splish splashing. For some reason, it was just me and my mom. I do have a brother, but he must not have been with us. And the clouds started rolling in and it started to like storm. And my mom had been sitting on the beach, I'm sure just freezing because she was just laying there, not like obviously running around like I was. And she came up to me and was like, okay, honey, like it's time to go. And I was like, I just want to keep playing. And she's like pointing at the storm clouds and she's like, okay, 5 more minutes. And I was like recalling this to her. And I was like, oh, honestly, it's just like so sweet that you did those kinds of things and just like held out and you weren't like, no, I'm cold, like we're leaving, get in the car sort of thing. It's just such a nice memory. That beach honestly had such a sick like concession stand. It was like this, I think that it's still there. It was like this big apple, and then you could order like Slurpees, what were they called? Slush puppies. You could order slush puppies and fries and hot dogs. And it was like a really big treat for us to get to order from the concession stand at the beach because it was so expensive. Like, I mean, it's like $10 for a basket of fries. You know what I mean? Like, it's just outrageously overpriced. So we usually did like pack a lunch to go to the beach, but then we would get like a treat from the Big Red Apple, and I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And I just loved that place. So anyway, that is my favorite memory of summer as a wee child, for sure. I know that it probably doesn't sound that exciting to you, but when I look back on it just so fondly. Okay, so that actually covered my little Rudolph nose pretty well. The reason that I like this Lancome Skin Feels Good foundation is because it's not super high coverage and it's like a nice dewy glow. And I feel like especially in the summer, because you sweat anyway, this isn't like based in fact. It's mostly just like my brain being like, yes, this is better. When I'm sweating in the summer, if my foundation is already dewy, it feels like my pores aren't being as clogged. Like, you know, when you're wearing like a super high coverage matte foundation, it kind of feels like you're wearing a mask. But for some reason, when it's like a dewier foundation, you're like, oh no, this is fine. That's how I feel. So I'm like, oh yeah, like my skin is breathing because I have this dewy foundation on. Anyway, I don't know if that's true. That's why I like wearing dewier foundation in the summer. I forgot that I was gonna do eyeshadow today, so I always do that. I always do my foundation before. But I'm gonna go in with the Rare Beauty eye primer. I like this eye primer. I don't use it a whole ton because I don't do my makeup a whole ton. But when I have been doing my makeup, I use this eye primer and I really like it. I feel like it like has a nice coverage for me because for some reason like I have this like redness here and I feel like it kind of covers it up. And I'm just like going in with my little fingy over top of it. Okay, moving on from basically like toddlerhood, let's go into like grade 6 era of summer, okay? So I lived on this street that kind of like connected a bunch of different streets. I don't even know how to explain it. It was like we had two sort of major roads, not major. This was like a really small city. Anyway, two sort of bigger streets and then like all of these little streets like in here. I lived in here, okay? And then we were like connected by these. But then it was like this situation and there really wasn't that much traffic in here. So you could like bike around and like skateboard around or rollerblade or whatever you want to do. Oh, this is fitting. I'm just gonna use the Tarte Lip Palette and go in with the color Super Mom. This is a super like light shadow, but probably gonna be skin tone for me. And I'm just putting that down as my base before we do just like a very, very slight eye look here. You know, we're going for like effortless. So I lived on these kind of like quiet streets. Down the road, I had a friend and she had like kid parties often, I'll say. She had like a really nice backyard and she was allowed to have friends over and she had a lot of friends. And I became friends with her in grade 6, I think it was. We would go over there and this actually was a thing on my dad's street too. We would play kick the can. And I was telling my landlords, who happened to be my best friends, but in this case, landlords, because how dare you, about this game that we played called Kick the Can. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? We never played that, don't even know what it is. Sam thought that it meant like kicking a tin can down the road. And I was like, no. So if you don't know what Kick the Can is, I did end up looking it up after I told them about this because I was like, I can't believe you didn't have a childhood if you didn't play Kick the Can. And so I looked it up and I'm just trying to find a little brush here. I keep interrupting my stories to tell you what I'm doing, but it's worth it, I promise. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the Naked palette. Hasn't had love in a while online in general, I feel. And I'm just gonna go in with the color Naked and Buck, I think. This situation, just like so, like just a kiss of color. And I'm just gonna go whoop, just right on the outer corner. So Kick the Can, if you don't know, is basically like cops and robbers. I feel like everyone played cops and robbers. It's like a game of tag. Okay, so someone is it. Now I'm wondering like if I remember correctly. Anyway, this is what I recall Kick the Can being. Someone is it, everybody else has to run and hide, and then whoever's it has to tag people, but then they're not it. Okay, they then have to go to jail and you have this like big tin can. I don't know if there's like a fancy can that people like Sam used, okay, but we used like a empty Folgers can before they were plastic, when they were like tin. Everybody that was in jail, so say there's like 5 of you, okay? Say 3 of you are in jail. The last person standing who's not it has to come and kick the can and let you all out of jail. That's how you free everybody. And then the only way for the person who's it to not be it anymore is for them to tag everybody so that everybody's in jail. And then I think, I don't know, maybe the first person that got caught has to be it. I'm not sure. I can't remember that part, but that's kick the can. So that was my absolute favorite summer activity. And we didn't get to play this a lot. Honestly, we usually played this on like pro D days when I lived at my dad's house, because my dad's house, we were on a dead end. So we lived at like the very top of like a mountain sort of thing. It was called Black Mountain, but on the old side. Okay, if you live in like Black Mountain for some reason, we lived on the old side, and then they developed the new side, and then like everybody on the old side moved to the new side, and then it was just me on the old side, and I was like, hey. We lived on a dead end, so we could just kind of like play around up there willy-nilly, no problem. And there were quite a few kids on our road, varying in age. So they varied from like my age to, I think it was like 6 years older. So we had like a pretty good mix of people and skill levels and athleticism, okay? So it's like, it was a little hard for me I think I was the youngest, to try and play kick the can with all these like high schoolers, but everybody was super nice, and the high schoolers like used to babysit me when I was a kid. Like it was like a really wholesome area to grow up in, to be honest with you. And we would play kick the can, and it was cool that they like all wanted to hang out and like spend our like pro D days together. They might not have been high schoolers, they might have been like middle schoolers. It was just so fun, and I loved like this sense of community and just all being together and playing. And I remember this one time we were playing, and my mom showed up to pick us up, because when I was younger, like my parents were divorced basically my whole life. And so when I was younger, I spent a good chunk of my life living primarily at my dad's, and then my mom would pick me up on the weekends, and then it swapped. But this particular night, we were playing kick the can, and my mom showed up to pick us up, and we were like, no, because we wanted to keep playing kick the can. But obviously it was like exciting because it was time to go to my mom's. But yeah, I just remember like how much I loved it. And this is the other thing, okay, I'm going on a rant now. When things that you enjoy don't come around a lot, they're so special. You know, like I don't think if we had played kick the can every single day as a community, it would have been that fun. But because it was only like 4 times a year, when it did happen, it was like so good, you know, because like everybody was just stoked to be there. It wasn't like, these youngins want to play kick the can again. It was kind of like, yeah, we'll all do this together. So anyway, back to my original story on that. What am I doing here? I'm just taking like a smaller brush and going in with like a little bit of a deeper shade. I'm going in with Buck. Back to my original story. We found like a community to do that with at my mom's house too. And so I would ride my bike, even though it was like 2 seconds away. I would ride my bike to this popular girl's house, but she was like popular but like humble. You know what I mean? Because back in those days, oh my God, like I'm so old. But like kind of low-key, my 10-year reunion is this year. Back in those days, the popular kids were kind of still like bullies. But then when I was in high school, by the time I was in high school, the popular kids were like in like climate like care clubs and like peer support groups and stuff like that. Like those were the popular kids, the ones that were like doing good for the world. So at this point, like the popular girls were usually still like kind of dickheads, but this girl was like popular but like kind. But she had a lot of friends, and so we would all like hang out and play kick the can and tag and like ride our bikes around. And I just like remember those memories so fondly. Like having a sense of community is like so huge. I feel like as kids, I don't know, it warms my heart. It makes me want to cry. Okay, I'm gonna go in with this like little flat brush and this color Half Baked here. And I'm just going to put it kind of like in here because I feel like this look got a little like dark for summer, you know? Okay, so that was like grade 6. Moving into middle school years. Like I said, I grew up in kind of a small town. It's growing now, but when I was young, it was not nearly as like developed as a city, by which I mean we didn't have like a superstore, we didn't have Staples, okay? Like we had a grocery store sort of thing and like a Zellers, and then we had to go into the next town for big things like Costco and Walmart and stuff like that. We didn't have a Walmart. When I was in middle school, I had a bus pass, and I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Because this meant that I could like go around the city without having to have my mom drive me. So I had this bus pass, and my friends had bus passes too. Basically everybody where I lived had bus passes. We just like rode the bus wherever we wanted to go. So on the weekends, we would all get together and go to this store, RIP, Zellers. Usually it was only like 2 or 3 of us. It's not like I had like a huge group of friends that were just like storming Zellers, you know? But here's the thing, we had nothing to do, okay? This city, I can't even tell you how little they had for kids or like teenagers, really any adults, really. There was nothing to do. It was basically like beach or hang out at Zellers when I was in middle school. So we would all get on our bus. It's so funny because there were different little neighborhoods where I grew up. So the people that lived in like Glen Rosa had to take a certain bus, and then the people that lived in like Shannon Lake had to take a certain bus, and different areas had shittier bus routes. So like if you lived in Smith Creek, it was called, good fucking luck, bro. Okay, you have like 2 buses a day. Same with Shannon Lake. Honestly, I feel like I had it the best. I feel like Glen Rosa is where I grew up. You all had to like coordinate when you could get to this Zellers. Thankfully, most of my friends did live in Glen Rosa, so I didn't have to coordinate with Shannon Lakers until grade 10. Anyway, you would all meet at the bus stop down in the city area. Okay, it was called West Bank. It's so funny like talking to you guys because most of you probably aren't from Kelowna or West Bank, but for me it's like I still have so many friends that like live there or whatever, so I'm like explaining it thinking you guys are gonna be like, I know, obviously. I'm just kind of cleaning around the edges here because I forgot to obviously do my eyeshadow before I did my foundation. You guys were there, so you know. I feel like that foundation is wearing off my nose already, so I'm just gonna put on a little bit more and just really pack it in there. We'd all meet at this bus stop and we would head up to Zellers. And I'm not even joking you, this is what we did for fun, okay? We would just walk around Zellers. If you don't know what Zellers is, you're probably too young to be watching this video, but if you don't know what Zellers is, it was kind of like Walmart. It was like a cheap Walmart. Probably not in price. Probably not in price, but in like aesthetic. It was just kind of like a shittier Walmart. We would just walk around and look at stuff and play with stuff on the shelves. Like I actually remember like hanging out with this guy one time and we went to Zellers. You know what I mean? It was like, I think we liked each other and we had like a hangout planned and we hung out at Zellers. This was the place to be, okay? I'm unsure if other kids did other things, you know, but this is what we did. And there was one time where I was actually with my mom in Zellers, and I think because the employees knew us kids who hung around there often, these like hooligans who hang out in Zellers, I'm gonna go ahead and put Park Ave Princess on my cheeks for some bronzer. I think they hated it when we came in with our parents, and I was running around looking for my mom because this was a time where I was not there with friends. And I ran into this employee and I was like, Mom! And then she looked over to me and I was like, oh, you're not my mom. And she said to me, and thank goodness for that. How mean. Like my eyes are watering. Think about that. I think about that like 10 years later. More than 10 years, like 15 years later. How rude. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe it. I'm just packing on this bronzer. Holy. That's my Zellers story. I can't even describe to you though, like how weird it is as an adult, like thinking back that we hung out at not a department store. That would have made more sense. But we just hung out at like basically a Walmart, but like a shitty Walmart. You guys remember Extra Foods? We hung out there too. This is what we would do, okay? Zellers was like up here. We would go to Zellers, and then sometimes we would like walk down to Extra Foods, and then we would go to like the Tim Hortons. Honestly though, the Tim Hortons was like bumping in high school. I guess I'll just move on to my high school days now, honestly. Wow, that looks like a lot of bronzer on camera. But honestly, it doesn't look like that in real life. I don't know what's going on. I just really like went ham, I guess. Whoop, let me put it over my little red nose. My camera shut off, so that's pretty rude. Okay, well, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of blush here. Even though my cheeks are like outrageously bronzed at this moment. It's like I'm going for like a dance recital. You know, when you would have to like really pack on the makeup for dance? If that was you. That's the look that I went for here. Let me try to like go over top of it with a little bit of foundy. A little bit of foundy. Let's move into high school now because I've kind of segued conveniently into it. So in high school, in grade 10, I should say, because things really changed for me rapidly in high school, okay? I'm just gonna go in as well with some highlight here. I'm using Auric Glow Lust in Morganite. Am I? Yeah, in Morganite. And I'm just gonna put that like, just on the apples of my cheeks and kind of like upwards. What is with me over applying makeup today? Oh my goodness, it's because it's 7 a.m. So in high school, in grade 10, we still couldn't like do a whole lot because as grade 10ers, in my school anyway, also we don't use sophomore, freshman, junior, that kind of thing. That's why we say grade 10, 11, and 12. It's not a thing in Canada. Maybe in like the eastern provinces, but definitely not in the western provinces, okay? So when I was in grade 10, we would all meet up at this Tim Hortons, and there was only one in grade 10, okay? It's not like there were multiple, so all we had to say was like, we'll meet at Tim Hortons. And oftentimes we didn't have any money to buy anything at this Tim Hortons, so we would just like all meet up there and sit there and like wait for cool people to show up, like people who we thought were cool people, and then we would like hang out with them. Oh, I just heard somebody's up. Good morning! But what I was saying before is that when you're in grade 10, in my high school anyway, nobody wanted to talk to the grade 10s, especially at the beginning of the year, because we were so fresh to the school, like we were so young, it seemed, and we had like a lot of growing to do before they would like entertain the thought of hanging out with us. So it was basically only us, and I think I was 14 when I entered high school, okay? As 14 and 15-year-olds, like all we could do was ride the bus, and none of the people with licenses wanted to hang out with us yet. So this is all we could do. We could just hang out at this Tim Hortons. I'm gonna go in with, again, the Tartelette palette and use the shade Dreamer for my eyebrows. That's what we would do. My friend group would all meet at Tim Hortons. Usually we would sleep at my house because my mom had like pretty chill rules. So I had like, by the end of grade 10, I had a pretty late curfew, and she didn't really like care what I was doing as long as I was honest with her about it. Obviously, like she cared what I was doing, but she kind of used the theory that if I trust her to tell her what I'm doing, like I'm safer, which is probably true, honestly, because she did always know where I was. It's not like I was like behind her back, like trying to do shit. I was just like, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And she'd be like, okay. So we would usually sleep at my house because we were allowed to like take the bus and like go to friends' houses and stuff like that. And I was allowed to have like multiple people sleepovers, which I know isn't like a thing in a lot of people's houses. Like a lot of people I knew were only allowed to have one friend sleep over at a time unless it was their birthday. That wasn't a thing. Like I could have like 3 people sleep over at a time, and like often, like every night, like in the summertime anyway. Summer of grade 10 is something that I will never forget, okay? Summer of grade 10 was like the golden years. There is honestly probably, except for my unborn children, okay, there will never be a happier time in my life. And I've accepted that. And I knew it when it was happening. I knew when it was happening that I was like, this is what they talk about. This is what movies are made of. It honestly felt like the coolest time of my life. And here's the thing, there was like a loss of innocence that happened that summer, okay? We did like dive deep into the friendship pool of the older boys, okay? But it was so sick. So throughout grade 10, we kind of started to like mold these friendships with like the older crowd, so like grade 12. I'm just gonna kind of like blend out that eyeshadow a little bit, and then I'm gonna go in with some freckles. My friend group was all in acting, and I think we just called it drama, but it was called acting. So we had made friends with the grade 12s, not really the girls. The girls didn't like us too much, which is like fair, but with the boys, and they all had cars and stuff. So throughout grade 12, we were like nurturing these friendships, and then throughout grade 10, sorry, we were nurturing these friendships. And then over the summer, it was just like one party after another, and not even like bad parties, you know what I mean? Like we would just all get together. There was like 20 of us. We'd all go to the beach. We'd all drive around. We'd all go to Tim Hortons. It was just like such a different experience, and everything that we did felt so fun because you were doing it for the first time. I'm going in with the Freck OG. This is the smallest tube ever, so you probably can't see it, but I'm just gonna put on some little freckles because I covered up all my freckles. And when I do my freckles, okay, I do them basically like over top of the freckles that I naturally have. So I kind of just like dot them together and then boop, and kind of just like move them around. So this is what I was thinking just the other day, is that the reason that the summer of grade 10 was so fun is because none of us had done any of those things before. None of us had gone to parties, like high school parties. None of us had driven in a car with like our friends who were driving and like bumping music. And do you know what I mean? It was like, it was all so new, and it was all so like, you know, it seemed taboo, and like being able to stay out late and just all of these things that now like driving around isn't quite so fun. I'm sure it can be, but it's obviously not the same. And going to the beach, sure, it's fun, but this was like a feeling inside of me that I can't even describe. It was like utter like giddiness every day, every time. And also like falling in love for the first time. I met my high school boyfriend in that friend group, and I was just obsessed with him, and probably to my detriment because he was like much less obsessed with me until much later in life. It was like we could never be on the same page. I just like was so into him, and I had never felt this way before. And you know something else that bugs me? This is kind of just turning into like a grade 10 rant now, is when people say that like you can't fall in love at 15, you can't fall in love like in high school, because I kind of believed them when they told me that I didn't know what love was. And by they, I just mean like the proverbial they, like adults, you know, our parents. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like maybe I am just naive and dumb. Nope. Okay, it's true. There is something different about first love. And I'm not saying that you can't love after that, or that you won't have a better relationship or a deeper connection. There is something about first love that like it just, I think because it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I've never experienced this before. I've never experienced feeling this way. It's really overwhelming, and it can be, you know, all consuming, and you're feeling, it's like a drug. You know what I mean? You're releasing so many feel-good hormones for the first time, you know, in probably that quantity. I think that it can just be such an overwhelming experience, and to feel that so young and then to have it discredited is kind of like shitty. So I think that my rant there is just a PSA that if someone tells you they're in love, maybe just don't ruin it for them. You know what I mean? Like maybe just believe them. And then if later, you know what I mean? Like what's the downside to not saying that? You know, like, haha, told you you weren't in love. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? Just be like respectful of people's feelings. Anyway, that was my grade 10 fun. That's what I liked doing in grade 10 for fun, was hanging out with older boys, going to parties, driving around, and still hanging out at Tim Hortons. Okay, I really went like ham with the freckles, but I do actually have a lot of freckles like naturally, so it doesn't actually look that crazy to me. I'm gonna take down my hair here, whoop, and also put on a little lip gloss. I'm just gonna go in with the Plenty of Pout Plumping Lip Gloss from MAC. It's just like a little bit of a pink color. Whoop. Ooh, that's a little gooey. Sure is minty, my goodness. Okay, now I'm gonna show you my little hair trick, but I have to grab my straightener, so please hold. Okay, so here's my hair trick, okay? It's gonna be super quick. This is just kind of like to finish off my little beachy situation. So I take my hair and I part it in the back, and then I take the two sides, okay? And then I take one side and I split it. Okay, so now I just have this half here. And I just kind of like run my fingers through it, and then I twist it like this, like a little Pippi Longstockings moment. And I have my straightener on, and then I just take my straightener and I twist that around the twist, okay? And I love it. It just makes this kind of like little beachy wave situation. And I just do that to all of the little sections that I've created here. So those are my favorite memories from summer throughout the ages. And honestly, I worked a lot. I did spend one whole summer working at this place called Panago Pizza. And it was honestly the bomb. It was like one of my favorite summers other than grade 10. I didn't really have a lot of friends, I don't think. I think that was summer of grade 8. And I wasn't popular growing up, okay? I wasn't like the cool kids. I didn't have like a really big group of friends. So when I worked at this pizza shop, it was like these people were like forced to hang out with me basically, like every day. And we all kind of like became friends. And I had this major crush on this guy who worked there. It must have been grade 9 actually, because he was in grade 10 or 11, I want to say. And I had such a crush on him, but he was obviously like too old for me. But then when I got older, okay, yeah, I think he was only like a year older than me now that I'm thinking about it. But when I got older, we started hanging out a little bit, and I was like, yes, like my my dreams are coming true. Oh gosh, but it didn't work out. He was a drummer. My musician phase. I think I told this story once before, but he was in the newspaper for something that I was like, I was such a little like hopeless romantic. He was in the newspaper drumming, okay? I cut out the picture from the newspaper and I pasted it on my closet doors. But here's the thing, okay, to make me sound like less obsessed, my closet doors, like people signed them with like orange Sharpie, and then I had like stuff posted all over them. So it's not like it was just this one picture from a newspaper article, like, do you know what I mean? It was like those closet doors were like filled with basically like graffiti and newspaper clippings and magazine clippings and stuff. So it wasn't just this picture of him. Still weird, okay? Because he didn't know at the time, I don't think, that I was like crushing hard. And then for my hair, I just take my little fingers and I do this. And then you kind of have this little like almost like braid wave. Okay, it's almost as if you like braided your hair and then allowed it to come out. And then I'm gonna take a sea spray. I'm taking Tarte Mermaid Waves and I'm just spraying it in my mouth. There we go. And I kind of just like zhuzh it, and then I also like crunch it a little bit. Like my goal is to make it look like I went to the beach and then allowed my hair to dry naturally. Because when my hair dries naturally from the beach, it kind of does do this little like situation. Even though I do have like naturally straight hair, I think that it's just like all the shit in the water. You know what I mean? Makes it a little crunchy. See what I mean? Just kind of like a fun little thing, and that took me like literally no time. Anyway, did I finish all my stories? Did I like, I don't know. This was kind of like all over the place. I apologize. But all in all, those are my favorite summer memories. Oh yeah, I was talking about my obsession with that drummer guy. Anyway, moving on from that, those are my favorite memories from summers past. This is my easy summer go-to look. I usually don't do eyeshadow, but I just like wanted to play with makeup today because I haven't played with it in so long. But just a dewy, freckly, bronzy situation. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing about my summers and this little makeup look, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, hang out with me. You know, the usual. Okay. Bye.